Let's talk about it with somebody who knows. He worked at the Office of Legal Policy at the Department of Justice, securing nominee confirmations, the Supreme Court, constitutional law analyst, and New Civil Liberties Alliance Executive Director and General Counsel. Mark Chenoweth joins us on the wake-up call. There's already an army of lawyers on both sides that are ready for a go at this. Is that correct, Mark?
Very likely. Well, I think that if the outcome is close, you're likely to see a number of lawsuits brought in key battleground states.
And on what basis, are they going to be bringing these suits? What are the different methods that are going to be used to litigate the election?
Well, I think you'll see individual ballots being challenged in some cases where the signature on the ballot perhaps does not match the signature on file with the election office. I think you'll see those kinds of challenges brought in very close cases. I think that you will also see challenges brought to any efforts to continue to receive ballots after Election Day in states that require ballots to be received by the time that polls close on Election Day. Typically, one side will want ballots to continue to be allowed to flow in, and the other side will want that to be cut off.
Well, now, in Oregon, the requirement is they have to be received by 8 p.m. on Election Day. And we do mail-in and have done mail-in ballots for about 20 years in Oregon. Are other states just being that willy-nilly about it? I mean, November 3rd is November 3rd, and requirements have been put on, when the polls close or ballots have to arrive for years. Why is this so different?
Well, unfortunately, a number of states, and Pennsylvania is perhaps at the forefront here, have decided to do a different kind of voting than they've ever done before. And so where Oregon is well rehearsed at this, folks in Pennsylvania are not. And so even though the legislature set the same sort of 8 p.m. Election Day deadline, it appears that the deadlines before that for when people, for example, could request ballots were put too close to Election Day. So if someone could request a ballot up to, say, 5 days before Election Day, they may not even get their ballot until a couple of days before the election. Even if they mail it immediately, it may not arrive until after Election Day, or at least that's the argument that's being made.
Oh, okay.
And so one dispute is, well, what do you do if it arrives after Election Day, but it has a postmark that's on or before Election Day? And then a separate question is, well, what if it arrives without a postmark at all? And that's the more controversial category.
Well, I guess the question here is, why is it, I guess, that a certain level of personal responsibility is taken out of this whole equation? I mean, if you're going to wait, I mean, some states are allowing people, like, for instance, Montana, Alaska, and a number of others, are allowing people to register to vote today. Why is personal responsibility taken out of it? If you're going to wait until the last minute, then you're going to have to run around, pick up your ballot, sign it, and make sure it gets to where it needs to go. Why is that not a part of the thinking?
It should be, and I think that's a great question. But these are partisan determinations that are made, and if one side feels that ignoring the deadline is going to be beneficial to it, you can count on one side ignoring the deadline.
Okay. In Oregon, it used to be that you could, each party had its own observers that would be there in the elections office when the votes were counted. At least in Lane County now, my understanding is that, no, you can't, because of COVID, you can't be there. We're just going to set cameras up. Is that going to be something that somebody could potentially litigate?
I certainly think in a jurisdiction where the vote is expected to be close or could be a difference maker, you could see litigation over something like that. We've also heard about disputes about whether people are allowed in the polling places today And in Pennsylvania, which is one I've been tracking a little more closely, the dispute has been whether the people in the polling place have to be from that precinct or have to be from that state. As you might imagine, there are some Democrat precincts in Philadelphia where there may not be very many Republicans who would be available to poll watch.
How messy do you think it's really going to be?
I think it depends entirely on how close the election is. I think if we get down to a situation where Joe Biden has a number of states and President Trump has a number of states and the winner of Pennsylvania will win the election, then I think we can expect lots of litigation and it would be pretty messy. If we have a situation where one or the other of them has a margin for error, as President Trump did in 2016, then I think if somebody has to win 2 or 3 of these lawsuits in order to flip the results of the election, then I think that it'll be less likely to happen and for those lawsuits to be pursued vigorously.
So do you think it's going to be as lengthy a process as it was in 2000?
It's quite possible. If we get to a situation where there is one state, I do think that we could be in for something like that. Again, yes.
All right. Well, there's a happy thought. So we should know sometime by what, Christmas time? Then would be about the right Christmas? We'd have a winner.
So there are dates in December that are important in terms of when states have to have their electoral votes sent in, and so I believe December 8th is the first one of those dates that comes up. So that'll be something that the states are and the courts, for that matter, are trying to meet.
All right, Mark, we appreciate you joining us on the Wake Up Call this morning.
Glad to join you. I just hope everyone's able to be as efficient about this as Oregon has been.
All right. We appreciate the sentiment. You take care.
Have a good day.
You too.